Well, Jeremy Boone from Cabela's is putting the new Cabela's Instinct rifle scopes through its paces, and we'll join him now on his first hunt here at camp.
So for out here, I chose to use the 4.5 to 14 by 44 rifle scope with the EXT reticle. It's just a good mid-range option. So it provides 4.5x magnification on the low end, 14 on the high end with a 44 millimeter objective. So, you know, out here, nothing's gonna be too terribly far away shooting wise. So just in case you had to reach out a little ways, it's nice to have that little extra magnification. But you know, realistically, you're going to be shooting probably 100 to 200 yards at the most, if I had to guess. And I would tell you that one of the most important things that we know about hunting is performance in low light hunting situations. Whether it's early in the morning or late in the evening, that's when you see the biggest animals. That's when they come out, if they do at all. But if they're going to, it's going to be in low light situations usually. That's one of the things we take pride in with the Instinct rifle scopes and the Instinct optics line in general is the low light performance. And that all has to do with, you know, your optical system, your lens system, and the HD lenses and the coatings that are used on them that really set them apart from the pack. So we hunted one the first morning that was an elevated blind, hard-sided blind, and it was a really nice setup. There's plenty of room for the both of us, and had a good view of about 270 degrees around us, and it was basically spotty trees with some openings to our left and front and to our right. The terrain's a bit different than in Nebraska. You got a lot more of the scrub brush and kind of sage around in between the trees. But it's fairly green right here, right now. As Wade was telling me earlier, it seems like they've got quite a bit of moisture compared to the years prior. Yeah, the first morning, just about as soon as we got in the blind, right as the sun was coming up, we started seeing does coming in pretty steadily from about all sides. And then a handful of bucks. Probably saw, I don't know, 5 bucks, 6 bucks that first morning. And we had one that we looked at pretty closely. He was right on the verge of being a shooter, but I think we've all agreed that he had the potential to be a real nice deer here in a couple years, and that's kind of what they're very cognizant of down here, and of course we are up where we hunt up north. You know, that deer has a lot of potential over the next couple years, so you may as well let it walk and try to find one that's, you know, a little bit older and, you know, has had its chance to grow as big as possible. So we ended up watching that one for a while, and it was a great buck, and I imagine that they'll see it over the next couple of years, and someone will be real excited to shoot it here in the future. So for the evening hunt, we came back to camp, obviously, got some food, made a game plan for the evening, and moved out to the spot on the food plot. And they'd been seeing a few bucks there recently that were shooters that they were interested in getting after. So we went and took a look. We looked at a couple pictures. There was a big 7-point that'd been running around there, and then a 10-point that was on camera but they hadn't seen yet in person. And so we thought there was some good potential at that food plot. Went and sat there and right away started gathering up. After we got there, that 7-point came out, and we got to look at him for, it seemed like, a couple hours. He's a great looking deer, but knowing that we had that 5x5, the nice symmetrical one on camera, we wanted to wait and see if he would show up. And it was getting harder and harder to wait by the end of the night watching that 7-point walk around. Yeah, I think the 7-point by that point almost wanted to be shot. He just kept walking around and he'd stand broadside and just slight quartering and just kept saying, you know, here's your shot, here's your shot. And we'd kind of talked about it, and I decided, you know, I kind of like good symmetrical, typical deer, a good symmetrical 5x5. We had talked about it coming into the hunt that night, and that was the one I was waiting for. And don't get me wrong, the 7-point's a great deer. Tall tines, he's an awesome one, and someone will be lucky to shoot him. Finally there towards the end, probably about 45 minutes before shooting light was up, I saw that 7-point start acting a little funky over by the trees, and he kept looking back into the trees, and all of a sudden I saw the head of that 5x5, the 10-point, looking out, and the 7 started scraping the tree and acting real aggressive, trying to chase him out of there. Seemed like that 7-point kind of ran that area, that was his group there, and you could tell he was pretty aggressive right away when that 10-point showed up.
Well, that shooter that Jeremy's been looking for just arrived on the scene, but a 7-point bruiser has started to show his dominance. Now Jeremy has to make a decision on when to pull the trigger.
We probably didn't have long to make a decision on whether or not we would shoot, and I think we both decided pretty quickly that it was worth taking a shot at. It seemed to get like he was going to get a little finicky, and we didn't want to wait around and see what was going to happen. So I would say within a minute of that 10-point coming into our field of view, we had to make a shot on him, or he might have got chased out of there before we had a chance to do anything about it. couldn't see where it was. Blew my hat right off my head. This nice looking deer. He's good and tall on the back. He kind of grabs on the front. Good solid 10-point though. We've seen a lot of deer coming through. We had about 30 of them by the time we got it all said and done. And had a real nice 7-point, 3 on one side and 4 on the other. It was milling around all night, and he kept tempting us, going broadside right in front of us. We were waiting to see if one of the 10 points would come out. Finally, we were about half an hour before shooting lights up. One of the 10 points came out of the woods, scraping the trees, and got that 7-point all riled up. They were both back there scraping the trees, and he popped out and took a good look at him. We saw pictures of him earlier, and put a shot on him about a couple minutes later. So it looked like we got a pretty good double lung shot, and so we had good frothy blood right there at the beginning, and pretty consistent blood right at the beginning. It wasn't anything where we had to wait a whole heck of a long time. We were able to get right on him, had solid blood every few steps. There's last blood back behind that tree there. Looks like we got a dead deer right up here. You can barely see him through the trees here. Looks like he didn't make it too far. It's a heck of a deer. We sat there looking at that 7-point all night. Said, no, we better wait and see if one of those 5x5s comes out. We made a shot on him pretty quick, within about a minute of him showing up, and he jumped up, and it's pretty awkward, worried that the shot wasn't in the right spot, but he must have been all jacked up from seeing that 7-point and getting ready to go at it, that he took off through the trees, but he didn't make it near as far as originally guessed, and put a good shot on it. Couldn't be happier. It's an awesome deer. It's pretty symmetrical on both sides. Rubbed off one of them brows a little bit, probably beating up on a little guy. He's got nice crabs on the end of them, both sides. Sweet deer. I had all the confidence in the world in optics and in my rifle after sighting it in. It's more, in that case, then it's just, you know, it's on me to take the shot. You know, there's only one person to blame or one thing to blame when it goes wrong, when you know that you've got a good setup like I had. There's no question that the optics are going to be on. The rifle scope's going to be aimed where it's supposed to be. It's all, then it's on the shooter to make sure it happens. So that's one good thing about having a good setup like that, and having something like the Instinct rifle scope, is you're not questioning your equipment when you're going to take the shot, and that takes away a lot of your nervousness when you pull the trigger. There's only one person and one thing that can mess it up, and that's you in that case.
Hey, congratulations, Jeremy, on your entry into the Yamaha Whitetail Diaries.